My husband is wealthy, but I don't love him. During university, he pursued my roommate Flora Harrington relentlessly, sparing no expense. Luxury gifts arrived one after another. He even made a grand gesture by sending 9,000 roses to the front of our dormitory. All the girls in our dorm benefited, carrying armfuls of roses back to our rooms as if we were moving a flower garden. Only Flora remained coldly indifferent. She even warned Alaric not to come looking for her again. He's rich and not bad-looking. Are you sure you don't want him? I finally asked the question I'd never understood, as I sat with a face mask on. With her stunning looks, she spent every day hanging out with that senior student who worked multiple part-time jobs. No way. That kind of stuffy, mature man? If you want him, go for it, Flora said disdainfully. I rested my chin on my hand, pondering for a moment before nodding. All right then. I'll pursue him. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Flora's expression changed slightly, but she remained silent. After finishing my face mask, I washed my face and went downstairs. She has a boyfriend now, I said, unable to hold my tongue. As I saw Alaric standing like a statue outside our dormitory, gazing up at our windows with a love-struck expression. He froze for a moment, pushing his gold-rimmed glasses up his nose before apologizing. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Flora hadn't told him? His expression darkened as he lowered his head, attempting to throw the black roses he was holding into a nearby bin. I held my umbrella, feeling a pang of regret at the sight of the rain-soaked flowers. Black roses, my favorite. Wait, don't throw them away. Give them to me, I said. He looked at the rain-drenched black roses with a self-deprecating smile and handed them over. All right, he replied. At that moment, his white shirt was quite wet from the rain, clinging to his subtly visible abs. Clean-cut, polite, fit, tall, and obedient. Most importantly, wealthy. To be honest, he was quite my type. Hey, I called out to him. He turned around, looking puzzled. I don't have a boyfriend. Why don't you pursue me instead? I suggested, offering him my umbrella. I'm not bad-looking myself. I have a healthy routine: early to bed, early to rise. I run 6 kilometers every morning, eat healthy dinners, and use face masks daily for skincare. I've had far more suitors than Flora, but I've turned them all down. He removed his gold-rimmed glasses and gazed at me silently. Time seemed to stand still. Long enough for his assistant to come over with an umbrella. Long enough for his car to pull up in front of the dormitory. All right, he finally said. He jotted down my number and left. I turned and went upstairs. I had researched Alaric Stanfield's background. He started his own business right after graduation, and his company kept expanding. When he goes back to inherit the Stanfield Group, he should be quite wealthy. That's why I couldn't understand Flora. Perhaps because my parents always argued about money and eventually divorced. The most important criterion in my choice of a partner is wealth. With money, there's no need to quarrel over household expenses. Back in the dorm, Flora's face darkened when she saw the flowers in my hand. You don't need to worry anymore. He won't bother you in the future, I said as I put down the flowers and dried my hair. I thought she would be relieved, but her expression only grew darker. You're such a slag, she spat. She hurled the insult. Flora's voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough to silence the entire dorm instantly. I paused while drying my hair, and the towel fell to the floor, splashing water. I usually dislike physical confrontation, but at that moment, I still slapped her. We're not typically people who lose control of our emotions. But that day, there was a kind of suppressed feeling in her eyes. That had reached its limit. I couldn't understand it, nor did I want to. Our roommates were frightened. Some tried to mediate, some held us back, some said I went too far, while others said she was being hypocritical. But I truly didn't understand. She had clearly said she didn't want him, that he was a bother. How did my taking over suddenly become stealing? From that day on, Flora moved out of the dormitory and hardly ever spoke to me again. I didn't take it to heart. Some people said I was immoral, while others said the same about Flora. I still didn't understand. She said Alaric's pursuit was troublesome for her, and she didn't want it. So when I accepted it, why did she get angry? If she was angry, fine, but I couldn't tolerate her insults. Occasionally, I'd hear about her being with her boyfriend. Some people said they were a perfect match of brains and beauty. Online, there were even fans shipping her with that senior. As for me, my interactions with Alaric actually increased. He wasn't good at expressing emotions. But he was courteous, restrained, and quickly became a hot topic on the university forum. I became a constant presence by his side, and rumors spread like wildfire. But I didn't care. I knew from the start what I wanted. On our wedding day, Alaric arrived at the last minute. Busy as always, wearing a perfectly tailored suit as he stood before me. He looked like a precisely calibrated machine, flawless in every detail. The wedding was grand, with a third of the guest list unfamiliar to me. I smiled gracefully, my posture elegant. In every photograph, I was flawless. I still don't know how he convinced his parents to agree to marry me. There was no grand alliance of families, no matching of social status. His parents were also very cultured people. The contempt and disdain I had imagined never materialized. Instead, they gave us their most sincere blessing. We hope you'll support each other in the future and nurture both your marriage and your individual lives. After the wedding, I lived very comfortably. Alaric was truly wealthy. How wealthy? His companies spanned the globe, he traveled by private jet, and signed contracts worth millions of pounds. Marrying him was the smartest decision I ever made. He doesn't understand romance, nor does he understand me. He won't write me love letters, won't call late at night to say he misses me. And on Valentine's Day, he only sends flowers through his assistant. He's the typical old-school husband, calm, disciplined, and unexciting. Perhaps all his past passion and excitement were spent on Flora. Being with him is like being married to a money-making machine. Your husband's away again? What's the use of all that money if he's hardly ever home? You must be so lonely, Gloria said. She's my childhood friend, though we've been in touch less since I got married. As soon as she arrived, she started sympathizing with me, thinking my husband spent too little time with me. I shrugged it off and took her on the private jet. How could I be lonely? The world is so vast, and I'm grateful that my husband works so hard to earn money, giving me the chance to see it all. All over the world, whenever I want, I can enjoy the most luxurious experiences. Lonely? How could I be? My friend's face darkened as she finally shook her head. I still believe that no matter what, being together is the most important thing for a married couple. Even if life gets tough, it's worth enduring together. I couldn't understand it. In fact, I was utterly shocked. There were actually people who thought the same way as Flora. But I still felt a bit down. Perhaps, in their eyes, I was the odd one out. I think you've changed. You're no longer the Elsie Sinclair I knew when we were young. She blushed under my gaze, tossed out that sentence, and stormed off in a huff. She was right. I had changed. At first, I would take her on trips, covering all expenses, and give her a supplementary card for various beauty treatments. But she always felt uncomfortable, asking me to count every penny wherever we went, refusing to take advantage of me, even though I told her countless times it wasn't necessary. And Alaric even said he'd reimburse her expenses to keep me company. She still refused. When the assistant brought the discounted expenses, she looked at the costly figures with embarrassment and asked for invoices and receipts. She passive-aggressively accused the assistant of trying to cheat her. As time went on, I rarely invited her out anymore. After marriage, the social circles I moved in were completely different. I was very busy, not just with travel and relaxation, but I also enrolled in many courses, from flower arranging and French to financial management, studying very seriously, not for interest, but in case something happened in the future. I wouldn't leave empty-handed. I heard that Flora had broken up with that senior from university, and she even started working at a subsidiary of Alaric's company. If one day Alaric remembered his passionate first love, his shining star, and wanted a divorce, I couldn't fight an unprepared battle. Although it's unrealistic to get half the assets in a divorce, I want to get as much as possible. Once I get it, I'll need to learn how to manage it. So I'm very busy. When I returned from Russia, Gloria came over. Elsie, your true love is back. Your first love has returned. And he's loaded now. She implied I could divorce Alaric, whom I had married for money, and marry Liam Thornton instead. He hasn't contacted you in all these years because he's always had you in his heart. Coincidentally, Alaric returned home the same day I did. He heard every word. Standing in the entryway, impeccably dressed in his suit. His expression was impassive, his eyes betraying little emotion. Gloria turned and saw him, her face instantly paling. She hurriedly stood up, smiling awkwardly. Mr. Stanfield, you're back. I was just joking earlier. Elsie wouldn't actually. I didn't take it seriously, he said calmly, walking in with his suit still on and carrying a gift box from his business trip. Nor did I take it to heart. He lowered his gaze and placed the box in front of me. You mentioned wanting to try the milfai from Hokkaido. I brought some. My eyes flickered, but my fingers didn't move. My itinerary assistant would have informed him of my return today. He must have come back specifically for this. I knew his schedule was tight, and it wasn't easy for him to get away. Thank you. I heard him give a soft in response, then he turned and went upstairs. I sat on the sofa, staring at the perfectly crafted milfai in front of me, suddenly feeling as though it would taste like ashes in my mouth. Gloria had already fled. She hadn't expected Alaric to return to the country early. Even more surprising was that he wasn't the hands-off wooden husband type at all. Actually, I knew that. I knew he treated me well. It's just that his kind of goodness wasn't romantic enough. Not passionate enough, not heart-stirring enough. It was too mundane. He was like me, an extremely self-disciplined person. Two similar people rarely spark, I suppose. The only point of compatibility was his physique. Shirtless, he was all muscle and abs, comparable to a top male model. At night, he was incredibly powerful. Even in our most intimate moments, he strictly controlled the pace. Disciplined to the point of being harsh, yet I couldn't find fault with it. Thinking about separating in the future, I felt an inexplicable sense of loss. I didn't take Gloria's words seriously at all. No matter how rich Liam was, how could she compare to Alaric? Her so-called true love Liam Thornton was just a pursuer of mine from university days. He chased after me, I said I wasn't interested. But he told others I had agreed. He still kept pestering me, so I bluntly said I would only marry a rich man. The rumor was hard to dispel. And somehow it turned into him being my true love. Ridiculous. However, the next day, Liam really did contact me. His text was cautious and restrained. It's Liam Thornton. Can we meet? I have something I want to tell you. Such a nauseating way of addressing me. I didn't reply. But I did feel a ripple in my heart. Not because of love, but because I felt he was like a bomb. If not handled carefully, he could become the hidden fuse in my marriage, potentially exploding one day and destroying my life. I knew that if the media caught wind of this old flame drama, it would be a fatal blow to me. I'm not love-brained. I'm very clear that if I want to continue having my current life, I can't make mistakes. Before Alaric brings up divorce, I certainly don't want to leave. When I arrived at the meeting, Gloria was there too. She invited me for a drink, and Liam only had a few sips. I hesitated for a moment before taking a sip. To be honest, the wine was subpar. Not even comparable to a random bottle from Alaric's wine cellar. I took one sip and declined any more. Cheap wine indeed shouldn't be consumed. Even that small amount made my head spin, and I saw double images of their faces. I slumped onto the table, hazily hearing their conversation. Darling, you mustn't actually touch her. We agreed it would just be a photo. Or I'll be terribly jealous, the kind you can't fix. Gloria's voice sounded nasally, as if she had a cold. Who was she calling darling with that repulsive voice? Don't worry, love. It's just a photo and a video. With this, we'll secure the Stanfield Group contract for sure. Liam? My already foggy mind nearly shut down. Gloria and Liam? I pressed the quick dial on my phone. Just as Liam's dirty hands were about to touch me, the security guards arranged by Alaric burst in. Miss Sinclair, are you all right? The two in front of me were surrounded by other security personnel, and the restaurant was quickly secured. What are you doing? I'm Elsie's best friend. We grew up together. What are you playing at? Gloria panicked. She had been to my house a few times and seen many staff members, but she didn't know I always had bodyguards with me when I went out. Perhaps I never imagined that my so-called best friend would conspire against me with an outsider. What was she after? I didn't understand. If she truly wanted a business deal, she could have just asked. I would have helped. Why go to such lengths to set me up? I'm terribly sorry. Elsie and I are old university mates. We were having a lovely chat and had a few too many drinks. It's all a misunderstanding, really, Liam stammered, trying to maintain his composure, but his voice was clearly shaking. The security guards retrieved the restaurant's CCTV footage and made a copy in front of the two men. My head was spinning. I felt as if my body was floating. When I opened my eyes again, I was in Alaric's arms. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes as if he'd been up all night. Darling. My voice trembled. The glasses have been sent for testing, he said softly. They'll go to prison. I looked at him, bewildered, my heart suddenly fluttering. When Alaric was angry, he was terrifyingly cold. It was the first time I'd seen him so emotionally exposed. The usually prim and proper Alaric yanked off his tie. This was a first, as if he'd torn off his civilized mask to reveal a darker side. Alaric. Was this really my composed and restrained husband? I murmured his name softly. I'm not sure what nerve I struck, but in the end, I cried. After a sleepless night, I was nearly spent. No. Was he ill? Could it be that news about Flora had stirred something in him? I wasn't wrong in my guess. Flora had been transferred to the head office. Elsie, news from Manchester. Flora Harrington and Nate Ward have been broken up for a month now. Mr. Stanfield will be staying at the head office for a long time. Until the project is finished. They'll be crossing paths frequently. What if they run into each other? The assistant had worked for Alaric for many years, and was transferred to my side as my personal assistant after her marriage. She knew about Alaric's pursuit of Flora during university days. Flora's appearance made her more anxious than me, feeling a greater sense of crisis. Having worked with me for several years, if I were to divorce Alaric, her situation would become very awkward as well. I continued painting, not particularly concerned. Even if I were, there was nothing to be done. We couldn't possibly prevent them from seeing each other entirely. The destructive power of a true love. Elsie, do you understand? The assistant sighed. My hand trembled slightly, causing a slight deviation in my brushstroke. Though not obvious, there was still a noticeable mark on the painting. Even without Alaric, I can still support you, I tried to reassure the assistant. However, upon hearing this, she looked even more dejected, as if convinced that Flora's return as the true love would bring a massive impact to my marriage. This unfortunate girl, I told her I could support her, and she still didn't believe me. Recently, my assistant has been frequently hinting that I should visit the company. I was quite busy, but I still made time to go to the headquarters. When I arrived, I passed by the administrative building and saw a group of people standing at the lift lobby, waiting. A man stood in the middle. I didn't pay much attention at first, until that tall, cold figure slowly turned around. It was Alaric. He was wearing a light gray suit, impeccably tailored. His expression was indifferent as his fingers lightly tapped on his phone screen. He looked as if he had stepped out of a magazine, calm, hard, unapproachable. This version of Alaric was one I rarely saw. Miss Elsie. My assistant gently tugged at my sleeve. nodding subtly towards a woman hiding partially behind a pillar. Look over there, isn't that Flora? I followed her gaze. Indeed, someone was standing there, half concealed behind the pillar. It was Flora. Flora was wearing a long white dress, her slender neck adorned with an ID card. Her makeup was subtle, and her hair was styled into a gentle princess updo, with a pink butterfly hairpin. She stood sideways by the pillar, her eyes fixed unblinkingly on Alaric. That look in her eyes was indescribable. It was both dazed and complex, like seeing a long-lost love after many years. For some reason, I disliked that look. It was as if someone was eyeing something that belonged to me, and I instinctively wanted to push her away. The two female colleagues beside her seemed unaware of anything unusual. Mr. Stanfield is personally overseeing today's meeting. It's likely to run late, one of them said. Well, it's a massive project. After all, he's the chairman's son, so he's hands-on to avoid any mistakes. Oh my, a man worth over £100 million. I'll feast my eyes and hope some of that wealth rubs off on me, the other replied. At those words, I saw Flora's pupils constrict, her lips nearly bloodless from biting them. Watching her look of utter despair, I understood. She regretted her decision. Indeed, the idealistic romantic from university days had finally realized what she'd missed after being tempered by the real world. The lift doors slowly closed, Alaric's figure disappearing into the steel gap. Without hesitation or pause, Flora stood rooted to the spot, her face turning pale. Flora, are you all right? One colleague asked. She shook her head, forcing a smile. I'm fine, just suddenly felt a bit dizzy. No one knew what was going through her mind at that moment. I didn't know either. Just as I hadn't understood before, I still didn't understand now. After a moment's thought, I didn't alert the secretary or use Alaric's private lift. Instead, I discreetly took the regular lift with my assistant. Flora shuffled in with her colleagues. She kept her head down, absent-mindedly scrolling through her phone. Something on the screen must have upset her, as she looked ready to collapse. Otherwise, I imagine she would have recognized me even with my sunglasses on. But as my assistant and I stood at the back, she remained oblivious, head bowed and expression distant. Her odd behavior aroused her colleagues' suspicion. One of them, without thinking, actually read aloud the message on Flora's phone. Darling, is there really no room for negotiation on the dowry? You know my family's situation. We really can't afford £208,000. Many dowries around here are only £120,000. An eerie silence fell over the lift. The air seemed to solidify. The female colleague who had read out the message also realized her slip of the tongue and sheepishly closed her mouth. As for Flora, the color drained from her face as if she had been publicly flayed. A flush of embarrassment rose to her cheeks, then quickly faded, leaving her ashen-faced. If I had known it would turn out like this, I would never have rejected Alaric back at university, she said softly, as if talking to herself, or perhaps instinctively lashing out under the stress. I glanced at her. She had actually brought up Alaric. My assistant covered her mouth, looking nervously towards me. Flora's two colleagues exchanged glances, their expressions quickly shifting from shock to gossip. Is that true? You and Mr. Stanfield had a thing? Flora took a breath, nodding slightly with what seemed like a mix of shyness and pride. It's true. If you don't believe me, go check the University of Manchester forums. He bought over 9,000 roses to pursue me back then. That post is probably still there. 9,000 roses and he still couldn't win you over? Flora's smile faltered for a moment. In that instant, her eyelashes lowered, as if someone had quietly tugged at a nerve. The female colleague immediately pulled out her phone to search, and indeed found the sensational news in an old post. Although the photos were no longer available, the comments revealed that Alaric had pursued Flora. Millionaire splashes out on 9,000 roses to woo campus beauty Flora Harrington. I was there, it was incredible. I only wish it had been me. I was there too. Rich or not, the campus beauty clearly wasn't interested. She rejected him and gave the roses to all the girls in the dorm. Just wondering. Why did this millionaire chase the campus beauty instead of the homecoming queen? Weren't they roommates? The female colleague scrolled through a few pages before quietly putting away her phone. She felt something was off. Hang on. Isn't Mr. Stanfield's wife also a Manchester graduate? Flora listened, her palms turning white from her nails digging in. Only when the pain hit did she manage to regain some composure. He's married? She asked hoarsely. Ages ago. You came late so you don't know. But every single person in our company received a £999 red envelope. It was from Mr. Stanfield personally, meaning to wish him and his wife a long and happy marriage. The company group chat exploded. There were over 100,000 congratulatory messages. It was truly something. I've even seen his wife's Instagram. They travel by private helicopter. Mr. Stanfield drives a Pullman, she drives a Rolls-Royce. It's the epitome of a luxurious life. I heard she's a beauty queen level stunner. I raised an eyebrow. Looks like I'll need to keep a lower profile on Instagram from now on. At this moment, Flora's eyes were alarmingly red, her fingers clenched white. From her expression, she must have guessed that the person who eventually married Alaric was me. Elsie Sinclair. I know her. We were roommates back then. When Alaric was pursuing me, I was still hesitating. But she just went ahead and confessed to him directly. I thought what she did wasn't right. But I never expected her to slap me across the face. I don't know what she told Alaric, but that very day, he inexplicably blocked me on all social media. As she said this, Flora trembled with anger, gritting her teeth. Her eyes filled with intense hatred. The others in the lift pricked up their ears. The air seemed to freeze, and no one dared to speak, though their eyes were full of shock. I heard the junior assistant gulp, her breathing becoming shallow. Standing in the corner, my fingers twitched slightly. To be honest, I felt a strong urge to slap her. But reason overcame impulse. If I were to act, once the news broke out, it would give Stanfield Group's competitors just the spark they needed. It could potentially turn into a wildfire, ultimately affecting Alaric. Even the stock prices. Flora, since you know Mr. Stanfield, would you mind taking these meeting documents to the executive secretary's office? A female colleague handed over the file. You're so pretty. I bet Mr. Stanfield won't be able to take his eyes off you if he sees you. She added with a wink, the implication clear. Flora hesitated for a moment, then curved her lips into a perfectly measured smile. Today she was wearing a white dress, with light makeup. Her hair in a half-up style with a butterfly bow clip, making her look particularly gentle and refined. All right then, she said softly. I wonder if he still remembers me. She looked a bit uncertain, but there was more of a premeditated composure about her. I stood still where I was. My assistant glanced at me, looking at my dark sunglasses, and finally silently moved a bit further away, even holding her breath. Of course he'll remember. Honestly, you're like the one that got away, how could he possibly forget? But frankly, I can't even imagine what our Mr. Stanfield is like in private. I feel like I'd go weak at the knees and think I'd done something terribly wrong. If he so much as looked at me. Flora laughed lightly, her tone unhurried and tinged with familiarity. He's actually very nice, quite the gentleman. You'll see once you get to know him better. My assistant standing beside me looked like she was about to roll her eyes. I stood quietly, saying nothing. But I noticed something intriguing about her words. Since being transferred to the head office, she hadn't yet had the chance to meet Alaric. The lift stopped on the 97th floor. They walked out first. The receptionist saw them and her expression suddenly turned cold. Her voice icy, "How did you get up here?" Flora was taken aback, "We're here to deliver some documents." Deliver what? Just leave them at the reception. Which department are you from? What's going on? Who let you come up here? The receptionist was utterly discourteous. Her eyes filled with obvious impatience and wariness. After all, the 97th floor was a restricted area, not to be entered without special permission. The girl next to Flora was frightened into silence, and Flora's face paled a bit. Just as she was about to explain, the receptionist suddenly noticed me, paused, and her demeanor changed dramatically. She almost immediately stood up straight, her tone becoming as respectful as if she were a different person. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Stanfield. Mr. Stanfield is in a meeting in the conference room. Would you like to wait in his office?" I nodded. The receptionist immediately came forward to lead the way, her attitude extremely deferential. Flora stood rooted to the spot, as if struck by lightning, her expression dazed. Her eyes flashed with intense shock, confusion, and a hatred she could barely suppress. She had recognized me. Her colleague's face turned even paler, recalling with horror the things they had said in the lift. Feeling a chill run down her spine. They had just been gossiping about Mr. Stanfield in front of his wife, when the 97th floor button had lit up in the lift. She had been a bit suspicious. But the documents needed to be submitted before the end of the day, and applying for permission was too much trouble. That's why she thought of sneaking up to the 97th floor. Hearing Flora's words, she had gone along with the excuse. After the 76th floor, only the four of them were left in the lift. She had glanced at me a few times then. After all, such an alluring, coldly beautiful woman was hard to ignore. But I was wearing sunglasses and my expression was too cold. So she didn't dare to look too often. She never imagined it would be Mr. Stanfield's wife. In reality, I was even more beautiful than on Instagram. I walked past them without a word. At least for now, she had to watch her step even to go upstairs, and was being sent away just to deliver some documents. It showed that there was still a vast distance between her and Alaric. Good. The power of a true love seemed not so formidable after all. "Elsie Sinclair. Aren't you going to say anything? Do you think you'd even be qualified without me? Do you think it would have been your turn?" Flora shouted, apparently enraged by my dismissive attitude. Everyone in the secretarial office looked up at once. I stopped, slowly removing my sunglasses. "Where's the head of secretariat?" I asked. A woman in a well-tailored suit quickly approached. With a wave of her hand, two people escorted Flora and her female colleague away. It was quite undignified. Flora huffed, telling me to watch out. My assistant coldly reminded the head of secretariat, "Don't let her up to the CEO's office again in the future." There was really no need for the reminder. I had never considered Flora a threat. I came only to gauge Alaric's feelings. If she could captivate him with just a glance, then there was no point in clinging to this marriage. Alaric was a man of strict self-discipline. If he still harbored feelings for Flora, he would have done something about it. With his business acumen, if he wanted a divorce, I would be unceremoniously thrown out without proper preparation. He showed no mercy to his business rivals. I settled into Alaric's office, which was as luxurious as ever. It boasted a master bedroom, a golf simulator, a cigar lounge, a pool table, and even a game room. I never quite understood his hobbies. Learning that he would be in meetings for 2 hours, I decided to take the opportunity to rest. My assistant approached me. "Miss Elsie, have you noticed? Flora's outfit today looks a bit like the one you used to wear at university." She paused for a moment, then excitedly pulled out her phone. "I have an old photo I took. Mr. Stanfield gave me a month's salary as a bonus because of this picture." She enthusiastically scrolled through thousands of photos. It had been incredibly busy lately. I had squeezed time to come to the office to get a handle on things, not wanting to be caught off guard, and I was truly exhausted. I glanced at the screen casually, feeling drowsy, and drifted off to sleep on the leather sofa. I was awakened by a kiss. The moment I opened my eyes, Alaric was loosening his tie with one hand. The other braced beside me as he leaned down for a deep kiss. There was no escape. I nearly suffocated. Bloody hell, was he trying to murder me now so his true love could take my place? I bit him, and he pulled back with a pained expression, gently rubbing the corner of his mouth. He asked in a low voice, "What brings you here?" The number of times I'd come to the office to see Alaric could be counted on one hand. There was an odd hint of disappointment in his tone. "I heard Flora's been transferred here. I came to see for myself." I stared directly into his eyes, not wanting to miss any flicker of emotion. The man known for his ruthless business acumen looked momentarily confused. Then thoughtful, the corners of his mouth turning up slightly. I focused on his upturned lips, where I had just bitten him hard enough to nearly break the skin. It was particularly jarring. He smiled. I sighed inwardly. It seemed this marriage was likely headed for divorce. I'd need to have a thorough chat with my solicitor when I got home. If worse came to worst, I might need to set up some cameras. If Alaric were to have an affair during our marriage, I should be able to get more in the settlement. While I was still mentally planning, I found myself pulled into Alaric's embrace. He nuzzled my hair. When you suddenly mentioned her name, I didn't react quickly enough. You're jealous, and that makes me happy. What a nutter. Me? Jealous? All right then, I've got a class tonight, I said, extricating myself from his arms. The atmosphere felt odd, and I didn't like it. I went to fix my outfit and hair. My assistant always said I was too meticulous. Even my feet were perfectly manicured. No matter the occasion, I was always impeccably put together. I stared at myself in the mirror and touched up my lipstick. She was right. I never allowed myself a moment of negligence. Just like my daily 6-kilometer jog that I never skipped. So I came to see if Alaric was still worth keeping. When I came out, Alaric had tidied himself up. His jacket was draped over a chair, and he sat at his desk in a freshly pressed shirt and retied tie, signing documents with a fountain pen. Seeing me emerge, he pushed his gold-rimmed glasses up his nose, once again exuding the aura of a seasoned executive. I'm flying to France the day after tomorrow, for about 2 months. I reported briefly, as if giving a routine update. His pen paused mid-signature as he looked up at me intently, saying nothing. I glanced at him, then scrolled through my phone. My assistant timidly knocked on the door, interrupting the silent moment. Let's go, I said, standing up. My assistant clutched my bag nervously as she followed behind me. Miss Elsie, Mr. Stanfield seems upset. She whispered the moment we were out, as if she'd been holding her breath inside. I made a non-committal sound. His mood was none of my concern. Alaric had been in the business world for so many years that, like a seasoned politician, he rarely let his emotions show. For even my assistant to notice his displeasure, he must have been quite visibly upset. I suppose that was directed at me. Miss Elsie, look at this photo. My assistant exclaimed, eagerly pulling out her phone to show me. I glanced at it casually at first. The photo captured a summer twilight, with a tilted umbrella shading a man's head. I stood beside him, holding a bouquet of dark roses. The camera had caught the moment we locked eyes. I remembered that day. It was raining, with slanted sunlight breaking through the clouds. I looked at him and smiled. Send me that photo, I said, coming back to the present and putting on my sunglasses. My assistant's fingers flew over her phone. About a minute later, she was spinning in circles with excitement. Who knew? One photo had earned her 2 bonuses. I love you, Miss Elsie, she gushed. I ignored her, lost in the memories the photo had stirred. My assistant started the car, taking several deep breaths to calm herself. Miss Elsie, that hair clip in the photo, and your hairstyle. Doesn't Flora's look today seem very similar to yours? As my assistant finished speaking, I felt an inexplicable irritation rising within me. Suddenly, I remembered that day when I had stopped him and said, I don't have a boyfriend. Why don't you pursue me? But I couldn't recall wearing such a white dress. Nor did I remember using a butterfly hair clip. Yet today, Flora, from her hair to her dress hem, from her makeup to her demeanor, looked almost identical. In that instant, something collapsed. My heart felt as if it were being slowly pierced by an icy needle. It wasn't painful, just cold. Constant dripping wears away a stone. At that moment, I heard something finally shatter inside me. Let's talk tonight. Alaric's text message popped up just as I was fuming. My usual calm and detached demeanor crumbled at that moment. Talk about what? Divorce? I tossed my phone aside. Book me a flight for tonight, anywhere. I need to clear my head. My assistant glanced at my face surreptitiously, not understanding why I had suddenly turned so chillingly cold. I didn't go home, didn't attend class. Perhaps this was my only moment of losing composure. As I boarded the plane with just my documents. After landing, the hotel manager came to pick me up. As soon as I turned on my phone, I saw countless missed calls from Alaric. Looking at them made me feel irritated. The divorce agreement has been drafted. It's in the second drawer of the bookcase. Have a look, and if you have any issues, let the legal department review and handle it. The decision to make the news of our divorce public is up to you. I typed out a text message. After sending it, I turned off my phone. Divorce isn't easy, it'll probably be quite troublesome. Fortunately, I had always said we should have children later. And had been using contraception. Otherwise, having a child would make it even harder to divorce. I soaked myself in the bathtub, unwilling to get out even when the water turned cold. Meanwhile, Alaric was furious. What happened today? He demanded. Alaric's face was terrifying when he was angry. My assistant hadn't seen him like this in a long time. His voice wasn't loud, but it was so intense that she could barely breathe. Today, it was Flora, Mr. Stanfield. You remember her, right? The girl you pursued at university, the one you ordered 9,000 roses for. She came to the CEO's office looking for you and ran into Miss Elsie. In the lift, she said Miss Elsie stole her boyfriend back then. And slapped her. She also said that she was the one who brought you two together. Oh, and Flora shouted at Miss Elsie, saying something like, "Elsie Sinclair, don't you have anything to say? If it weren't for me back then, do you think you'd be worthy? Do you think you'd have had a chance?" The assistant mimicked Flora's tone as she spoke, quite convincingly, though her attempt at a fierce expression was a bit over the top. Alaric's eyes flickered darkly. His face turned cold enough to frighten anyone. He picked up his phone and dialed an internal line. Within 10 minutes, add Flora Harrington to the permanent blacklist of Stanfield Group and all its subsidiaries. Reject her for any position, any project, and never cooperate with her. The person on the other end was startled. Mr. Stanfield? Remove her as a nominal investor, freeze all approved budgets, halt projects, and withdraw advertisements. He spoke each word steadily, as if discussing the weather. Yet the temperature in the entire office seemed to plummet. If she dares to step on my wife's face to climb up, she should know the consequences. He extinguished his cigarette, stood up, his voice low and hard. When did she start drafting the divorce papers? Alaric asked, remembering the text message, his heart twinging painfully. The assistant's eyes widened. Knowing she couldn't hide it, she spoke directly. When Flora broke up with Nate Ward. The air seemed to pause briefly. Just as the assistant was about to lose her composure, he lifted his finger slightly, casually gesturing towards the door. He was dismissing her. The assistant felt immensely relieved. Looking back, she felt that Mr. Stanfield seemed as if he was about to shatter. The assistant frantically tried to call Elsie, but the phone remained switched off. I was awakened by the doorbell. As I stepped out of the bath, a chill ran through my body. I've been so exhausted lately, always feeling tired, that I had actually fallen asleep in the tub. Outside the door stood Alaric, looking weary and haggard. Elsie, he called my name, enunciating each syllable. He then pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. What are you doing here? I asked. If I remembered correctly, the headquarters had been extremely busy lately, with a project he was overseeing personally. How could he suddenly appear here? He lowered his head and tore open my bathrobe, like a wild beast gone mad. I tried to push him away, but it was useless. After the chaos, he still held me, his hands tightening like vices. Still trembling slightly. Divorce? Keep dreaming. I was bewildered. Alaric, I said, my voice a bit hoarse but cold as frost. He instinctively held me tighter. Elsie, when I said I wanted to talk to you, it was about your friend Gloria Carter. True to his businessman nature, his mind worked quickly. My attention was immediately diverted. Even though I hadn't asked about it recently, I had been constantly worried. I wanted to know why she had done this to me. I couldn't understand it. She's taken responsibility for all the crimes. Liam Thornton got off scot-free, but Gloria will go to prison, Alaric said, looking at me with what seemed like pity. I don't have many friends. Gloria was my only one. We grew up together, had our little squabbles. But in the end, I always gave in to her. She had a difficult personality, often keeping things bottled up inside. If I ever ignored her, she'd be the one hiding away to cry in secret. I stared at the ceiling, momentarily confused. Why? I couldn't understand. When I can't understand something, I don't dwell on it. Things have turned out this way, and regardless of the reason, the fact remains that Gloria has hurt me. This time, I won't forgive her. I glanced up at Alaric for a moment. He had clearly taken in Gloria's words. Yet he claimed he hadn't taken them seriously. He wasn't my first love. When he was pursuing me, he spread some rumors. I was angry and warned him off. This must be his revenge. I sighed. Liam was very handsome, and many people pursued him. That's why he couldn't accept my rejection and harbored such resentment. He deliberately spread rumors about being with me, and then was provoked when I married a wealthy man. He bottled up his anger, went abroad to start a business, and probably came back wanting to humiliate me. But he discovered that everything he had was worthless in front of me. So for revenge, he went after Gloria, someone he normally wouldn't have had a chance to meet. After his pursuit, Gloria fell for him. That's also why Gloria hid their relationship from me, and eventually tried to conspire with him to destroy me. Like me, Gloria didn't have a happy family when she was young. She always longed for a family of her own. Someone as calculating as Liam would have seen right through her. Which is why he was able to make Gloria fall for him completely, unable to escape the illusory dream he created for her. She was even willing to go to prison for him. However, going to such lengths just for revenge seemed illogical. I frowned. How's Liam's company doing? I asked. Not as good as Stanfield Group, Alaric replied quickly. How many companies could compare to Stanfield Group? What was he trying to express? He knew exactly what I was asking. I looked at him silently, my face expressionless. His company is having cash flow problems. No wonder. I want Liam Thornton to lose everything. When it comes to business warfare, Alaric is the ace. Understood, darling. The corner of his lips curled up, his chin resting in the crook of my shoulder, suddenly seeming to be in a very good mood. I rarely saw Alaric like this. Or perhaps I had never truly understood him. Perhaps it was because he agreed so readily. I thought for a moment and kindly reminded him. You should go find Flora. She's just broken up with her boyfriend over the dowry. Now she'd be with you even without 9,000 roses. At the mention of that name, his body stiffened for an instant. Why would I look for her? He said in a low voice. My wife is right here. Fair enough. He's gotten used to having a substitute. Seeing the look in my eyes, he felt a wave of frustration. He gently bit my shoulder, then cupped my face, both angry and helpless. Let me explain. When I pursued her initially, I had mistaken her for someone else, he said. The usually shrewd Alaric was reluctant to admit this absurd and laughable beginning, but if it was something his wife cared about, he didn't mind revealing his embarrassing story. During the University of Manchester's anniversary celebration, I passed by the music room. That day, I saw you playing the piano for a cat. That moment was unforgettable. Unfortunately, when I wanted to get to know you, I was called away. I thought it was all right, I'd surely meet you again. A hint of embarrassment flashed across his face. Later, I saw Flora wearing clothes you had worn, dressed just like you. I thought she was you, so I started pursuing her. It was my first time liking someone. As for how to court someone, it was all advice from your current assistant. Roses, handbags, lipstick. The first time we met, I asked her, "Hello, I'm Alaric Stanfield." I saw you yesterday in the music room. You looked charming playing the piano for the stray cat. May I court you? Alaric stood before Flora with a bouquet of flowers, carefully composing his words. I'm sorry, but if you've fallen for me because of the stray cats, I must decline. I won't be playing the piano anymore either, Flora said firmly. Alaric had been rejected. Feeling dejected, he recounted the incident to his assistant, hoping that a recent graduate might understand girls better and know how to pursue them. Flora continued to refuse him, but she never revealed that she wasn't the one playing the piano in the music room that day. Nor did she tell him that she already had a boyfriend. She simply watched as Alaric fell deeper and deeper. Until that day when you came down and mentioned she had a boyfriend. I was feeling quite low. But when you tilted your umbrella towards me, smiling in that white dress, it overlapped with the image from that day. I'm ashamed to admit it, but my heart skipped a beat. It didn't feel right, and acting on instinct. I went to confirm at the University of Manchester's music room. It was you all along. I was overjoyed. It had always been you I liked. He lowered his head. This affection isn't perfect, and I've failed miserably, haven't I? I didn't dare bring it up because it's not at all admirable. But that flatmate of yours, she's quite unethical. You might not have noticed, but she's been imitating you. Your clothes, your style, everything. She must have guessed that I liked you and that I had the wrong person. She deliberately led me on, always confessing under your dormitory building. Every time I thought about you watching these scenes from upstairs, I couldn't bear to admit that I was that foolish person. So I never mentioned it. When we got together, I was ecstatic beyond belief. We got married, Elsie. He sighed. But I realized you were always so clear-headed, able to detach yourself from me at any moment. You love traveling, you love freedom. Just as I love being at the office, gradually expanding my business empire. I thought we'd be like this forever. But then you said you wanted a divorce. I don't agree, Elsie. Listen carefully, I don't agree. Ugh. His heartfelt confession was abruptly cut off by my nausea. I didn't dare look at Alaric's expression. I genuinely felt sick, trying to hold it back until I couldn't anymore, and rushed to the bathroom. When I came out, Alaric had already dressed. He took me to the hospital. On the way, I kept pondering his confession. I thought Alaric liked Flora, and I just happened to appear as a convenient girlfriend. After the series of blows from Flora. That's why I never discussed feelings with Alaric. Alaric had also been carefully avoiding this topic. I thought we would carry on like this. And I was even prepared for the possibility of breaking up when Flora returned. I avoided Alaric's gaze. In the early hours, the air conditioning in the VIP ward was very cold. Miss Sinclair, congratulations, you're pregnant, the nurse announced. Her words stunned both Alaric and me. We hadn't planned on having a child. I remembered, it must have been that time when Liam tried to harm me. Alaric had been like a madman, not using protection. And I had forgotten to take the pill afterwards. We looked at each other. The atmosphere was eerily silent. The nurse smiled awkwardly. Be careful in the first 3 months, no intercourse. She gave a lot of instructions. While I was still in a daze, Alaric was already listening very attentively. Have the designer renovate 2 nurseries at home. Alaric's fingers slid over his phone, sending a voice message to his assistant. Then he looked up at me. Elsie, do you think little Stanfield will take after me or you? Boy or girl? If it's a boy, I'll teach him business from a young age, so he can avoid many pitfalls when he grows up. Imagining a little stoic sitting next to Alaric's office, signing documents with a serious face, I felt a chill. Girl, I interrupted him. Alaric's lips curved slightly upwards. Little Elsie would definitely be very cute. An image of a little girl in a pink dress, all soft and sweet, floated in my mind. I glanced at Alaric. This man was terrifyingly shrewd. In just 2 sentences, he had led me into dreaming about the child. When just moments before, we had been discussing divorce. Even though neither of us was ready to be parents, and we were still hesitant, he could accept the new identity in an instant. He was even guiding me to accept it. After pondering in bed for a few minutes, I decided to have a proper talk with Alaric. I won't accept cheating, including emotional affairs. If you fall for someone else during our marriage, the assets will be divided into 3 parts. The child stays with me, and we get 2/3, you get 1/3. Alaric took a deep breath. All right. In fact, I knew this didn't mean much to Alaric. He still had the Stanfield group behind him, he could make a comeback anytime. Alaric's team flew in the next day, all on triple pay with flights and accommodation covered. As soon as he finished work, he rushed over to see me. He brought his legal team and drafted the agreement I had mentioned yesterday. I only breathed a sigh of relief after the final signatures were in place. I couldn't quite pin down my feelings. This was something I had always wanted to do. But now that I actually had it in my hands, this security, I wasn't particularly happy. Alaric set up a company in my name, hired a professional management team, and guided me through the process step by step. I had studied for some time, so I picked it up quickly. Alaric was somewhat surprised. Elsie, if you had entered the business world earlier, we might have been evenly matched. I neither agreed nor disagreed. Because I thought the same. Then again, perhaps it was easier now. Because all my current resources came from Stanfield Group. Standing on the shoulders of giants always makes things simpler. I was very busy after setting up the company. It made Alaric nervous, but seeing my rare smiles put him at ease. Elsie, now that you have your own company, you have the power to negotiate with me on equal footing, with or without me. Would you consider trying to love me? Alaric was holding a bowl of soup prepared by the nutritionist. Such a tall man, slightly bent, looking at me with such anxiety and nervousness. As if waiting for my judgment. I didn't say anything. If this had happened when I first got together with Alaric, I might have casually said I loved him without a second thought, even if it wasn't sincere. But at this moment, I found myself unable to placate him. Finally, I nodded. All right. The chairman and his wife of Stanfield Group have given the company a bonus. Apparently, it's to celebrate the birth of their grandson. But as I look at the wrinkled little bundle, I can't say I feel much maternal love. I wonder if I'm the odd one out. After all, I've seen other mothers weeping with joy as they hold their newborns. A miniature version of Alaric. No matter how I look at it, it feels strange. Little Stanfield, Mummy loves you, and Daddy too. Alaric, tall as he is, looks particularly comical holding the tiny bundle. He leans down to whisper in the baby's ear. I think I'm seeing a different side of Alaric. I watch him and can't help but smile. Do I love my husband? Before little Stanfield arrived, I could have said no. That I could divorce at any time. But when he explained, my heart gradually softened. The day I played for the Stray Cats was the day my parents divorced, with both families tearing each other apart. It was also the day that I, on the verge of falling apart, rebuilt myself through the notes of the piano. I never imagined that moment would be frozen in someone else's world. As if someone had picked up the broken pieces of me, put them back together, and said he liked what he saw. Love? I think my heart might be stirring.